Alrighty, so the next person that we have up is Ms. Jinni Forcucci. She is the Delaware 2018 DE Teacher of the Year. So let's go ahead and give it up for her. Woo!
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here, for welcoming us to this beautiful and incredibly safe space of El Paso, for supporting and elevating and celebrating the children who are not permitted to speak for themselves, for the children who have so much to say, so much to learn, so much to contribute to our nation. My name is Jinni Forcucci, and I am a high school English teacher in Georgetown, Delaware. I have the honor to learn from immigrant voices each day in my creative writing and composition classroom. And what I've found over the years is that too often, my young people, my writers, they shield their trauma because they fear retribution. Whether they're hiding personal experiences or experiences of loved ones, they often suffer in silence. In addition, my first and second generation immigrants, instead of feeling safe to share and honor their parents' sacrifices and struggles, they hide their stories. But when we establish trust, when we encourage truth and authenticity, sometimes we're gifted with a child's story. And these narratives are powerful. They are real. And if the people in this nation are to understand the impacts of these detention centers, of this wall, of the hurtful rhetoric that injures and belittles, we must, as teachers, as educators, as advocates, as humanitarians, welcome the immigrant story, and most importantly, embrace the teller of these stories. Empower the teller to heal and to grow. And that's why I'm here. I want to share some student stories. I have three. Two from the writers themselves, using their words. And as you listen, I ask you to consider how their histories have shaped them, how their present moments are defining them, how their futures and their dreams deserve to be free of the trauma forced upon them. Today is for Suni and Melissa and Roberto. Today is for Uriel, who tells of the moment his father knew he needed to pursue his dreams. Uriel writes, "The mother pours some of her soup into her son's bowl. She understands what it takes to work in construction, therefore she's eager to replenish her son's aching body. The young boy smiles because he sees his family savoring the bread that he has put on the table. The table is small, but it is still difficult to fill. A loud crash shakes the table and sends the family rushing for shelter. They're panicking. They seek comfort in their own home. The boy sprints for the door and locks the chains. He crawls along the wall frequently, getting up to cover a window with a board. And then the gunfire begins. Rival drug cartels battle in the streets. They look to claim territory and attack one another. But the bystanders are harmed the most. This young boy, he rushes to the bathroom where his sister is melting down in the lap of her mother, and he sits on the floor with them. The mother leans her head on her son's pounding chest, and he tightly grips his mama's shoulder with his calloused palms. And as that boy grew, his heart became filled with ambitions and his hands with more calluses. He could not solve the drug war in his home country of Mexico, so he worked hard to escape it. And at the age of 15, he left his family and moved to Chicago, where he had many lonely dinners. He was young, but he was dreamful. He dreamt of one day having children to eat with, and he dreamt of having a safe setting to eat in. Uriel's father is now in my state of Delaware, our state of Delaware, with a beautiful family, with a son I am blessed to learn from in my creative writing class, a humanitarian himself who crafts poetry after school and asks for novel suggestions to inspire and create his prose. Today is for Darvin and Alyssa and Fernando. Today is for Liz, who recounts the first moment the immigrant label inserted itself into her identity. Liz narrates, "I remember when I was little. My teacher treated me unfairly because they knew my parents weren't from the U.S. I'd cry. I cry when I didn't understand a math problem on the homework. And then I would think, this is why I'm treated. It's because of the way I am. One night I came home and I threw a fit because I didn't want to do my homework. That's when my parents told me that they were immigrants and that the life they were unfortunately born into in Mexico was horrendous. They told me they had to leave their family and their friends behind. They had to learn a new language and to make a new life from scratch. Most importantly, they told me why they decided to come to this country, to raise a family and make something out of our name. They wanted me to have the opportunities they could never have, and they wanted me to live a childhood worth remembering. They said, don't let it bother you, because if we got this far, you can go so much farther. And that school year, I went to summer school and I aced that second grade math course. Today, Liz is a compassionate, curious, academically gifted student who continues to thrive in public education because she refuses to allow those who choose ignorance over awareness to define her. Today is for Daliani and Nada and Ashley. Today is for Alexis. Alexis taught me early in my career how to be strong, how to advocate, how to teach fearlessly and compassionately. This brilliant leader first stepped foot in my room about a decade ago. We were working on a Bridging the Divide research project, and Alexis was especially excited to explore the why behind her Latinx dropout rates in our nation's schools. She couldn't wait to share her findings with her primarily white classmates. Unfortunately, a quick visit to one of her favorite teachers' classroom quickly halted her enthusiasm. Having just been nominated one of Delaware's outstanding Hispanic students, Alexis stood in front of the classroom, waiting to pick up the letter of recommendation. But in that moment, when she should have been relishing the joy that comes with such an honor, she heard a peer call her a dirty Mexican. And then she painfully watched as her teacher turned a deaf ear. Betrayed and devastated, she immediately came to me and asked to switch research topics to avoid additional discomfort. We talked about her voice, her power. And later she stood proudly and confidently in front of our room and delivered one of the most impressive and heartfelt presentations I've ever witnessed. And when she concluded, she shared the story of her parents' sacrifices. She shared her story, and then you guys, one by one, my students got up and they embraced her. But one kid stayed seated. The person who'd hurled the ethnic slur at Alexis was in my room that day. And I knew that her hostility and ignorance would overshadow the compassion that so many of my other kids had offered. But as Alexis was picking up her presentation materials, I watched as that young person who'd been so hurtful. She stood before her peers. She walked up to Alexis. She stood before me, before Alexis, and she apologized. It is Alexis's courage, along with the stories and experience of other beautiful, inspiring, hopeful dreamers who prompt awareness, community, and progress. Let us embrace their fearlessness when we confront and disrupt the detainment of children, the vilifying of immigrants, the suggestion that we cannot liberate each other through empathy. Let us consider the act of contrition she stirred as we work to ensure that all children are heard and treasured and encouraged to follow their dreams. Let us disrupt the trauma. Today is for all of us, for our nation, our democracy, for our future as a collectively liberated culture. Thank you.